My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white. Yeah, it's black and white. We're just black and white. It's my black and white. It's my black and white scarf.
Hello, and you're very welcome to the Town End podcast. It's season 5, episode 22. Well, it looks like Dundalk will be coming back down from Kerry as kings of the kingdom. To go through this tonight, man who's predicted this win for quite a few weeks is Gally. Gally, you predicted it was going to happen. It finally did happen.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if I predicted 2 goals in the last couple of minutes, but we were definitely due a win like that. We're kind of hammering around the draw, the low score draws, the gaps of 2 goals big. I'd say it's our biggest margin. I think we had a couple of twos with our biggest win in the margin.
Yeah, we haven't 3-1 in Bray that time. I think
we haven't conceded a goal tonight either. Probably could have scored another one, but I mean, I think we were always, a game like that was always going to come, a 4-0, a 5-0, a 4-1 even was always on the cards, because there's games that were not. There's games like where a complete contrast tonight, where we're kind of hanging on and we're kind of playing well, but there's always that chance that you'll concede a goal. Tonight didn't look like that at all. Tonight looked like, you're talking probably after 50, 55 minutes, Kerry were out of ideas, spent, lethargic. I think we kind of, when we had the ball, we kind of passed the debt. I think we just had that kind of superiority over them. Well, they were almost fearful of what we could do to them. And again, we've gone through the motions of, in times not actually playing well in the game, but I mean, overall we put them to the sword. I mean, it never looked like any other result tonight. It really didn't. Now look, that's open then. It's an opinion that I see, not just from watching it, and I've even watched the highlights back just to make sure. But we absolutely dominated the game. I mean, I know, and could we have scored more? Maybe. Yeah. Could we have played better? Absolutely. But I mean, it was one of those nights where you're probably not expecting it down there to travel so far. The games have been decent against Kerry this year. They can play football, but after probably, which is unusual, probably 5-10 minutes into the second half, Dundalk just took control of it. It never really looked like we were going to even concede a goal, never mind be under any kind of real pressure. They've had an early chance. I know we're skipping and not talking about our goals, but they've had one chance carrying the first half. But yeah, comfortable is probably the wrong word, because it's never comfortable in the first division matches. But I mean,
it finished comfortable.
We've been excellent. It's finished excellent. It's what we deserved. It's what we earned, probably more than what we deserved. And I think an overall cracking performance and some great individual display as well.
Yeah. I suppose looking at the starting lineup, J.R. Wilson straight in there. I don't think young Luke Mulligan has put a foot wrong, but at the same time, it's probably unfair to put him in there, and if he does make a mistake, how will that affect his development? But he's come in and he's done quite well when he's been needed. I suppose that's probably why JR came in. Obviously he's been training for the past few weeks since his announcement as well, so it probably wasn't that surprising.
Yeah, and Wilson's got the experience as well. He's got not that Mulligan's been thrown into baptism of fire this year as well, playing at this level. But look, plenty of experience to come. He hasn't put a foot wrong really all season. Was excellent the last couple of games. But it's probably a game where, you could argue the AstroTurf and maybe the travelling gives time to give someone a break. Maybe you're not, like the commentator said, Kerry aren't really fighting against Dundalk. We're not in their, we're not at their level, or they're not at
that mini battle,
Yeah, they're playing a different league on their own, like a mini battle, like you say. So a night to do it. But I mean, at the same time as well, you're not signing Wilson for nothing. You're not signing him to be an understudy to the current right backs we have. He wants to play. He's been probably signed to play. Whether he's been promised to play, and I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think anybody's promised anything in that team. But he's obviously been signed with an eye to get straight and stuck in. And look, his fitness is obviously ready to go. He's match fit. I think tonight was probably a decent game to put him in it. If the game had been at Oriel, maybe not. But yeah, it's a good game to put him in. Mulligan, I don't think he'd feel hard done by. I don't think he's a young fella. He's got plenty of football to go. I think maybe 1 or 2 games off, a bit of a break wouldn't be the worst thing. But again, Wilson's come in, has been comfortable again, a player that can play in multiple positions, done really well, didn't look out of place. Luckily, he's been playing all season. I know it's one game. I know we're kind of, we're taking it out of context for a 190-minute match, but never looked like we'd made, he hadn't played for us the whole season. Didn't look like the new player, I suppose. Yeah, just slotted in really, really simply, really, really well. And that's probably why he's been signed, because he's obviously comfortable looking straight into these teams, and the lads knew what they were signing straight out the gate.
Yeah, one person who we've probably seen in particular step up with regards goals over the past while is Harry Groom. He had an early slided goal, and it looked like Kerry didn't heed that warning, because 10, 15 minutes later, he had the ball in the back of the net. And these seem to be, these ones kind of just letting the ball roll in front of him and then striking it just outside the box seems to be something that's really in his locker.
And and they should know. I mean, if they've been watching any kind of football over the last couple of weeks, even if you take out the goals that he scored, the opportunity that he either takes on himself or creates for, whether it be Ebby or a Ruby or Owen Kenny or Gaxa when he wasn't injured, you can't let him in around the box. That final third just in, you can't let him anywhere near that, because he's going to have either a pot or a killer pass. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't heed the warning. They really didn't. And they continued after the goal. Even we were talking about the strike, but they continued that after the goal. And they struggled even from throw-ins. It was simple throw-ins around the box as well. They really struggled to get a hold of our attacking midfielder, whoever was in that position at the time. But again, it's fallen perfectly for him. He's had a chance earlier on, a Ruby link up as well, but his finish, it actually looked like it took a deflection.
Because it seemed to go through the keeper.
It seemed to be a really slack goal. I don't want to blame the goalkeeper, but I'm not taking away from the strike either, or the build-up play to it. Mm-hmm. But it seemed to go right down his throat. And it's one of them goals where he's gone under the ball almost to try and save it. So I actually had to slow it down on the stream to see if I could actually see a deflection on it. But again, it's a crazy strike. He's probably not expecting the go in when it leaves its boot, leaves the strike. He's probably looking for the top corner or bottom left. But yeah, it's stuck. Harry Groom in around the box. That's who you want on it. I mean, with the exception of maybe a Darryl Hogan, that's who you want on Johnny on the spot on those strikes, and he's shown it time and time again. And unfortunately, Kerry didn't heed the warning from early doors, and they let him in, and he's taken his opportunity and put it to the sword.
The thing I like about the goal he scores, the ball goes in, and the defenders kind of don't react quick enough.
Yeah.
And two of the players nearly run into each other, and then it's a very lax pass across them. I think that's something we'd be looking on, is to have that little killer instinct to be able to jump onto these balls and then punish a team for it. And that's exactly what Harry Groom done for that goal.
Yeah, it's almost like he anticipates the mistake. Now, there was one or two dodgy passes from Kerry early on, and this is like, you're talking the goal in 20 minutes. So even, I think in the third or fourth minute, there's a chance as well. And again, that's what Kerry haven't learned from. But he almost expects that the ball's, it's bounced off at the midfielder and bounced back to the centre back or the right back. And forgive me if I get the position wrong, but he almost knew that it was going to bounce off him. It was going to have to be a bounce pass to get it under control, which he wasn't controlling. And Groom just swept in. I mean, the guy the ball was meant for, he didn't even chase him. Like he was standing still, like he was almost giving out to the defender for missing the pass. But I mean, that's what Harry Groom gives you. It's that little link. We've had players like that over the years. Mm-hmm. Does a Keith Ward get to it? Probably not as quick across the ground, maybe. But Harry Groom is definitely on the move already before that pass. He's almost anticipating it.
And that kind of moves him into that space, though, to open for a shot, doesn't it?
Yeah, and because he's already moving, he's got that momentum. So even if he's in time with the defender, he's got that yard of pace already because he's already on the move. He's hit the ball. Like his touch of a ball is what the defender should have done. I mean, space around him. He didn't have to clear it the way he cleared it. It's a little mistake from them, but we pounced on it. And in weeks gone by, we haven't been able to pounce on it. We've kind of had a little bit of interplay around the boxing games where we're just kind of a little bit of lackadaisy on it. But Harry Groom's come in, and he does look. He's been an excellent signing, and that's exactly what he was signed for. He's not, I keep saying he's a Chris Forrest of the team this season. In around the box, you cannot give him that space. And Kerry allowed him to take that space. He took a little drop of the shoulder as well, told the midfielder inside out. Look, it's a perfect Harry Groom goal, and it's set us up nicely going. And look, I'm surprised it took 20 minutes really when you look at there were little half chances, but we dominated. I mean, we without being absolutely at the races, we just dominated the game from start to finish.
Yeah. So is it a little disappointing then that we didn't straight after that then kind of kick on and get that second one earlier? Like obviously with the one cleared off the line, which looked like it was coming from Dean Evans.
Great, and it's a player that they almost refused to pick up half the night was Owen Kenny. I mean, if they watched the Dundalk at all, they know what you're going to get from an Owen Kenny, a marauder kind of Owen Kenny. And again, in the build-up about Thames, there's a chance that one is cleared off the line. Kenny's done great work on the right. He's drilled in the cross. Now, if you're watching in real time, it almost looks like a bit of a shot, but I mean, it's gone into a box where you don't want the ball. In between that keeper and kind of left centre-back and left foot, you don't want it in there at all. Ebby's, you can argue, I think Ebby probably would be disappointed he hasn't scored from the angle that it's at because he'd expect to finish it himself, but it's a great clearance. It's probably the best thing Kerry done. Apart from their chance, it's probably the best thing they've done the whole night. But again, they haven't picked up Owen Kenny area. They haven't stopped that cross. He seemed to be surrounded by 2 or 3 of them, and nobody really wanted to put in a tackle. But again, we've taken advantage of their laps, which we haven't done against teams this year. We haven't taken enough advantage of teams that are poor in possession and don't really want the ball. But tonight, we're probably. It's not the best game we've played, but it's the result that we needed. It's that 4-0 that
I think it was a bit of belief tonight. Yeah,
of course, absolutely. Yeah, and we wanted that ball in that final third. We were excellent, and everybody kind of took that Harry Groom mantle on. Well, step in, get the ball early, don't be waiting. Owen Kenny had an excellent game, but it was Kerry just stood off us too much. They just didn't want. It's like they didn't want to play football. They were just quite happy to soak it up and go long. But then we take advantage of it, like we haven't been for pretty much the start of the season. And we said this result was coming, and it has. Yeah.
How important was it though to get in at the break with that goal lead? Like it obviously gives you the platform to kick on the second half, and like you say, to really reduce them to nothing much in that first half. That has to be something that they were delighted for, because that obviously is the springboard then for that late second half performance.
Yeah, and we've watched Kerry this season. Kerry can play. There's no the days of kind of your long ball specialists and that, the way the game is now, everybody wants to play the ball, and they can play. They have 1 or 2 talented footballers that wouldn't be out of place higher up the league. But again, we just you're always wary with a Dundalk 2-0 up, aren't you? Like that's the way it's kind of been all the season. We go in at half time, you're kind of right. How's the half time going to go? Do we need the half time whistle? Could you get another goal before half time? We probably should have had another goal before half time. Kerry's had a chance as well. Later, you've almost tried to Ruby the ball into the net later in about the 40th minute or so. But the thing about Dundalk is this season, we've gone in at half time, or we've gone 1-0 up in the game, and you almost expect the onslaught will come. I mean, there's a mistake here somewhere, and although we haven't scored another goal, it was stupidly comfortable. And I don't mean that to be a diss on Kerry. We just seem to want it a little bit more, if that makes sense. We seem to be. I know we scored 2 late goals in injury time, but we seem to we always have that little bit extra in us tonight, and whether that's a combination of the last couple of weeks where you've been a little bit disappointed with the Finn Harps result, and the next couple of weeks are going to be vital in games coming up towards it if you want to try and win the league. But it's the first night we've probably gone in where you didn't have the worry of what are we going to do in the second half, because all they had to do was repeat. They didn't have to go up a level, because Kerry had no answer for us. I think after, look, people might argue, but I think after probably 55, 60 minutes, Kerry were just out of ideas, spent. They just looked like, I don't mean to be disrespectful, they looked like a team that almost shouldn't be there. And they've played well. I've watched them play once or twice this season. I watched them play 3D as well, I think. And they can ping the ball about it, but they just had no answers for us tonight. And without us again, not being 100%, but I mean, a crazy result to get in a game where, it's a hell of a spin to make. It's a hell of a day trip to go down for a team. Kerry are kind of fighting their own mini league, but for us, particularly if we're talking about the first half, to go in the 2-0 up and come out with that belief that, we don't really have to go up a gear here. We can just sit and just do what Dundalk was done in the first half, and Kerry just had no answer for it. You're on mute, Chris.
Do you think that's part though of the sluggish start then to the second half? I know, you could say a little about the, the conditions and stuff like that. Poor cameraman had to do a couple of wipes in the lens there just to get him through the match. But, you could see you could see the ball holding up in the breeze a few times. Out of nowhere, you just get a mad torrential rain, and then it would stop then straight after. And then in the second half, in particular, the first 10 minutes of that second half, there seemed to be a little bit more bite about them. They seemed to go direct a whole lot more, and it was about trying to get onto those second balls, kind of a bit of a ping pong around the box and stuff like that, block shots, without really threatening us. But they definitely come out with a little bit more about them at the start of that second half.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing about Dundalk is 1-0 at half time. Like it's taken us, it seems to take like about 2 games of football to get the second one. But we've always been vulnerable. So teams would have watched us all season and said, look, we can get at them. You know, like, I mean, if you can't come out against this Dundalk team, it seems to be a trend where if you come out in the second half and kind of go for it, you will get chances. You will get kind of, you know, you'll probably get the better of us in the first couple of minutes. It seems to be just a thing. It's not all the time, but it's enough to kind of make us eat just on a podcast at 11:30 on Friday night, talk about it. But, you know, Kerry would have been well up for it because it's only 1-0, because they've had a half a chance with the overhead kick kind of just coming up to half time. And we haven't put them to the sword in the first half, which we should have done. Yeah. But this Dundalk team always seem to give a little bit of a, it's always a little bit of a come on, you know, like, you know, we're there to be taken. But even at that tonight, I'd say even if Kerry came out and scored in the second half and was 1-0, I still think we would have scored 4, maybe 5. I just think there was just something in the air tonight where the link between the 3 players in midfield was just, it's probably the best I've seen all season. The one touches, drop passes, hog, and you know. So Kerry, even what they did produce early in the second half, it wasn't of a high enough standard to kind of create anything for themselves or put themselves on the score sheet or cause us any real kind of problems, I suppose.
Yeah, I think they struggled to come up with that plan B.
Like even long ball would have done it. It was just one of them nights. Even that wouldn't have done it for them.
No, but even like when they tried to work it into thing, I think the coming of age moment nearly for Enda Minogue was the first fixture in this down in Mounthawk, where he had a stunner of a game, come out and collect the balls. He seemed to be doing that again tonight. That confidence is coming back into Enda. We've probably seen it over the past 2 games. The big save last week in Oriel Park against Cove, and then tonight it was just back to basics. He's picking up the balls at the right time, coming through a crowd of players, picking it up. You can see maybe, like for me, even Mayo had a good game again tonight after having a brilliant game last week. I think that confidence is starting to grow, and that bit of understanding maybe between Enda and Mayo and things like that, who's coming and when. You're probably starting to see that a whole lot more. But like I say, without a plan B, then for Kerry, I think they kind of struggled, and even getting themselves back into the game. Like I said at the start of that second half, just when they thought they could have, without even playing any good, Owen Kenny goes down and scores on a breakaway goal down the other end. You were talking about a result that had been coming. A goal for Owen Kenny had also been coming for a few weeks.
Yeah, I to say I was delighted is like what we're talking about Owen a lot. I look, don't get me wrong, he's put in a shift. I mean, you just want to see a couple of more goals from himself itself. Look, it's goals for the club. Look, we're getting goals from everywhere. The performance has been there. You just want to see him for himself to give him that little bit of confidence, and he absolutely led it. I know it's gone into the bottom corner. You could argue. Like I'll tell you, before the goal, the wee touch from, you know, how Dean Ebby's involved again, and he's involved in 2 or 3.
I think he gets 2 assists tonight. Yeah,
like he's like that. Just that little touch in midfield where he played was just absolutely, like, to run from midfield as well. Like he had options over Ruby and Owen Kenny outside. Owen's made the run again. Like you say, Kerry been chasing, so they've obviously left themselves a little bit open at the back. It's a super pass in, but Owen, there's only one thought in his head as soon as he gets it. He takes a touch out from his feet. It probably doesn't go in anywhere else. You know, low to the keeper's left. He's had a look. We can argue the keeper's had a bit of a disaster for most of the goals, if not all of them. Because the free kick coming up is a very, very similar thing. But
yes, you
know, he's just drilled it into the bottom corner. It's bounced in front of the keeper where it does not want to bounce. You're in the goalkeeper's union, Chris. It's just dipped at the wrong time for the goalkeeper and the right time for the attacker.
That sort of a night on that sort of a surface, that's just the last thing you want. For it,
because if it goes in top corner, he probably reaches to it, but it's just where it goes in where you don't want it.
Yeah, the thing about it is, and we've always said about Owen, the the less time Owen has sometimes to think about it, the better.
Yeah.
And that just shows he runs into space. He's been in that position a few times and maybe just unlucky not to have got the pass, perfectly weighted pass like tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you say, Dean Ebbe, it brings it down, puts a perfectly weighted pass. Owen just waits for the defender to come, makes a decision, knows that that's going to block the view of the keeper and hits it early. Yeah. Like I say, because he hits it early in that spot, like I say, it's probably just the one place that the keeper could not get to then.
Yeah, and maybe you'd argue, Owen Kenny of a couple of weeks ago probably tries to take on the defender.
Probably a bit more furious and disappointed in himself.
Yeah, and I think that shot's probably more in frustration because he's mad for a goal. But I mean, if that's what you want, just hit it. Just because he has it in his locker. There's no doubt about it. On his day, like you could be looking at the top goal scorer in the league. It just hasn't gone for, like, he's playing a bit out on the right, so you could argue that he's not going to get a lot of goals out there. But the way they play, the way Dundalk are set up with a Ruby, Ebbe, I mean, like, you could probably interchange him anywhere across the front, and there should be plenty of goals in it. And that hopefully that kickstarts him now. Like, but he's been outstanding over the last couple of weeks. I mean, his work rate is not in doubt. We just wanted a couple of more goals for him more than anything else. But delighted to get him on the score. Like he was delighted with it. I mean, the picture, you can see the picture that was taken and put up on the socials. He's absolutely loving it. And and Dundalk fans are delighted for him. You can see it. It's as much as we were for a Ruby over the last couple of weeks as well. Owen Kenny's, you claim him as your own. I mean, he's played for Rock Celtic. He's got the school in town. He's a homegrown player and homegrown talent. And if he can get himself into that kind of position in around the box, that power, precision. Look, you can argue the goalkeeper, but I mean, I don't think the way it's bounced, I don't think most keepers probably get to it. It's a cracking finish. Yeah. He's just drilled it. He's just absolutely drilled it.
And I think the thing is, you go and you get that shot off early. Like I say, it's probably the thing that they don't just be missing is he's just kind of dwelled, and maybe people say, Owen gets himself into great positions and sometimes the power is just not behind it. Tonight showed exactly what he can do. He just got himself into that position, hit it early with power, and it pays off. I think anyone watching Owen, I would say over the past 3 games, including tonight, you can see a far stronger determination. He's getting himself into the positions. He's now working keepers, and tonight he gets the reward for that. Like, and I think that's the most pleasing thing to see for it, because in particular in that Cove match, I don't think anyone would knock his commitment. First 15 minutes, he does the big tackle in front of the shed and riles everyone up. By the end, at full time, he's the one, running over to celebrate in front of the shed. Like, he knew what that meant from it. So, I think his performances have been getting better and better. So, it's just. And I
can't remember if it was the 3D game, the Revere down there, or the Kerry game itself. That the one he got in at the second half, or at halfway line, ran in with the ball. It seemed to take forever with it. I ended up missing the chance. I don't know if it was Kerry or 3D. I can't remember. It was very early in the season. But again, tonight, there's no need for that. Just takes it, snaps it out from his feet. Doesn't wait for anybody. Like usually, doesn't wait for the defender, doesn't wait for the goalkeeper. Nobody gets to settle themselves. And that's what we're looking for. That's it's and it's more for him than anything else. I think the way the game went, we would have got our goals. But I think on a personal level for him, he must be delighted to get off, and a great finish. Look, well deserved. He's been top class over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I suppose getting that lead and being relatively commanding in the game allows a couple of changes to come in. Wardy coming in, Andy Parashev coming in, Wardy hitting the free kick. He's had a couple of shouts of this in that area. I suppose that's part of the reason we brought in Wardy was for these little moments. It's hit at the right time. It really kills off the game, any chance of a comeback and stuff like that. The game was kind of petering out. Gets a free kick in that area. You got to just get it on target. Like you say, on a night like that, just get it on target and see what happens. And like you say, it's that low in that corner. I wonder if they've seen something during the week that maybe that's the keeper's weakness, is that side. Yeah,
there definitely seems to be some, like, that's why they get paid money. Maybe they've spotted something from other games that nobody else would spot. Probably maybe not even themselves, even the keeper themselves, even the Kerry team themselves. But there's definitely something there. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting Wardy absolutely led to the ball like that. But even we talk about the substitution, what I noticed with Kerry, when Wardy comes onto the field, even with it, and it's a little detail. Maybe I'm just reading too much. They didn't even pick him up. There was a throw in when Wardy came on. Everybody knows who Keith Ward is. You know what he's going to get. You know what you're going to get from him. You know what he's going to give you. They let him walk onto the field and take up a spot in the middle of the pitch from our throw-in, and we were just able to get the ball straight out the gate from 20 yards from goal. Now, it came to nothing, a couple of passes, but they didn't even pick him up. You know, it was that kind of night where Kerry just, you know, they didn't seem to want it enough, and just maybe just weren't capable of it. But I mean, fast forward to the free kick, look, what a strike. I mean, again, he's obviously, whether Wardy's picked it up from Owen Kenny's take on his goal, but it's definitely something that zipped across the ground. It's bounced. It's that kind of night. The Astro doesn't help. I mean, the Astro in parts look actually very poor for something that's very, very new.
Relatively new, yeah.
Yeah, it looked a wee bit kind of dark in spots, but look, that's the upkeep of it, I suppose.
We can't talk.
No, we definitely can't. There's no green in it. But look, it's a great strike. I probably expected we'd think over the top from Wardy, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, look, at that time of the game, if it's probably 60 minutes, he probably doesn't take it on. But that time of the game, why not? I mean, to keep it vulnerable all night. So why not take it on? And look, it's a fantastic strike. Like, really, look, free kicks from there, no matter how to go in, it's a decent strike to get in the past the goalkeeper.
Just when you mentioned just that substitute coming in, like that triple sub again, kind of in around the 78 minute, it just shows, you know, when you can bring off, you know, Sean McHale, Wardy and Andy Parashev, like it shows the strength and depth that we do have currently in this squad. And then obviously later on, you know, Declan McDade getting on as well. Yeah. In a game, like you just said, where Kerry were huffing and puffing without really doing anything, to see that triple substitute come in, I'm sure they were going, oh, Jesus Christ, like. Yeah,
and that's like, it's a mental thing as well. The boys must be thinking, right, let's give a shock to the system. Like, how many teams at 2-0 would make a triple substitution? I know, look, you can argue that we're a superior team and we have the players on the bench, but you don't have to make subs. You know, you can go to the game football and not make any subs. There's no law on not making subs. But I mean, to be 2-0 up and make those triple substitutions, and we've done it a couple of times this year. I think we've done one at 1-0 as well, I think, in Oriel Park. I might be mistaken, might have been Oriel, even at 1-0. But at 2-0, Dundalk haven't been, you know, over the line a lot this season, or even whatever it would be to score. We always seem to get pegged back. But tonight, it just seemed like he probably could have made all the subs at 1-0.
It was 2-0 in Treaty at home.
Exactly. Yeah, we've had those games where, you know, probably calling for subs. But one thing the lads are not afraid to do is make subs, and make subs early. They don't mind.
Well, even taking Darrell off tonight for McDade, like said, like it's very rare that Darrell even he comes off. So to even do that and be able to protect him, I suppose, in some ways.
And we would have come from, you know, we would have watched, you know, Stephen Kenny not make subs for 80 minutes. You know, you could be tuning up in the game and you wouldn't get a sub. You might get a sub in the 81st minute, and then he'd stop the game in 84, and then he'd stop the game in 87. That was the type. It was all mental game. But these lads are not afraid to get fresh legs on. And like you said, we have the squad. You know, like to bring on a Keith Ward, to bring on an Andy Parashev, like, you know, it's an abundance of riches. And you know, Parashev obviously taking his goal as well later on. But you know, you bring on your two subs. They've both scored. You know, you've got to see McDade as well. You know, could be a very, very handy player coming into the end of this kind of business end of the season. Yeah. But yeah, look, triple subs. Bobby Robson used to do it at Newcastle, and you see it all the time with him. And it was mad to watch because it wasn't something you saw. But like, you know, obviously with the League of Ireland, it's definitely got a few more players to pick from. But it's great to see that we can do that, and not, and it's not because of injuries. It's not a forced substitution. Everybody's playing well, but like, we're just going to get it freshened up and put the fear of God into it. Like you said, you're 2-0 down, you're struggling. And you look and you see who's coming on, and you know what you're going to be getting then. And it's just, you know, I'm sure the players like Andy Parrish for the talk of the league, because he's come in out of nowhere and just he's lit it up for me. And you know, nothing truer than his goal later on. It's that defender would be talking about him bouncing off him for the next couple of weeks. He's absolutely he's like a brick wall running at him, and he's a fantastic talent.
Yeah, I think Tony Martin there just saying that. I think Darrell picked up a knock. Actually, sorry, Tony, you're right there. Yeah. That was the reason for the change, but even to make that and be able to bring on McDade then
and not weaken the team, you know, that's the thing. You brought in, you've Wilson starting, you've McDade come in, they've signed shrewd operators. These lads are just slotted in. We haven't been weakened in any way, albeit, you know, a very average Kerry team. Like I think somebody said, Jason Crawley said they cause us more trouble in Oriel. 100%. They just, you know, it's not the Kerry you'd expect to look at. But yeah, it's again, it just points to the depth in the squad that we have and the talent, and you know, you're looking
I
at
hope Darrell's injuries isn't too bad,
Well,
though,
that's
and
it.
it was more of a cautionary thing than to get him off and then have a look.
Ironically, we spoke about injuries last week, barring any injuries, so I might have jinxed it there after talking about 4-0. But look, that's you get them ones.
Because a player like Darrell is so important, especially with the running, you know, that we have coming, and you know, you need to rely on having your captain like that on the pitch. As good as A is, I suppose, as the vice captain, you still want the experience and everything of Darrell in that. You mentioned him there before. You know, Andy Parashev comes in, and Andy Parashev does Andy Parashev things.
What a player! What a player!
There's a lot of similarities, I think, to maybe Owen Kenny's goal in the swiftness of the break, you know, playing it front to back so quickly. And of course, Dean Ebbe's little round the house little pass as well. But the finish from Andy is ridiculous.
And it started just outside our box, and Andy's on it, and I think it might come in from a throw. If I'm not, maybe I can't remember the build up on it. I don't remember who gave him the link. Is it Hall?
Wardy and him pass it to each other, and then he gives it to. He carries
Eddie's involved again. But the bit for me is when the defender comes across and just bounces off him. Like, this kid is 18 years of age. Like, there was no, like, he's like a man. You know, like, he just bounces off, and there's no kind of taking to the goalkeeper, rounding the goalkeeper, just absolutely put it past. The keeper's kind of gone a bit too. He's probably got a wee bit area. If you want to be
he definitely does. He makes it up.
Right in the middle of the shot there at that height. It doesn't look great. His goalkeeper coach won't be too happy tomorrow, but I mean, to get his goal like that, and we're expecting kind of wonder strikes from Andy. You know, you can't expect that kind of 20-yard, maybe the free kick from Wall. You're expecting maybe him on it, but to run that kind of distance and to get in and the bounce, it's cracking to watch. The guy just bouncing off him. It's just like to be bouncing off a child. If he's a child, he's 18 years of age. I'd say he's a broken shoulder over it. But I mean, it's a
broken heart.
Like a player like that, and the 1-2 with Ebbe as well. Ebbe's been instrumental in parts tonight. We talked about this guy all season. But you know, it's that little.
They run about 50 yards though, with the ball as well, and then
like Kerry to let him run. That's the night Kerry had. They let him run as well. Like if he was playing up at Orient, then just take him out. There's no point in letting him run. Just take him at the halfway line. Yeah,
but you know, it's funny. Jason Crowley just mentioning for Fats there, McElhenney. He's actually right. There's elements of him there you can
yeah,
see.
He's right. The more like unpredictable. That's what he is. I think Steph said that a couple of weeks ago. You don't know what he's going to do, and it's very rare. I think in the early doors he had 1 or 2 dodgy passes that you're kind of. He reminds you kind of Paddy Barrett, long passes for no reason. That was Paddy Barrett's instrument. Everything was a long pass for no apparent reason. And he kind of was guilty a bit of that early doors, but I mean, his control of a ball is just, I mean,
sickening.
he's kind of like Keith Ward and Robbie Benson all in the one. He's such a top footballer.
But like I said, to carry the ball 50 yards and then to go and think of a finish like that, and like I said, to bounce the defender away, like most people would be kind of get that far up the ball and then pass it off and say I'm done, but he wanted to continue on and like I say, take on the defender and then that finish, like it was nearly like a bit of a point to prove, and that seems to be something maybe that, you know, Kieran has alluded to it in a few post-match interviews, is, you know, Ruby came in that time with a point to prove and score goals and proved his worth in this team. You can see maybe a little bit there from maybe even Owen Kenny and definitely Andy Parashev there. A little point to prove. These are the goals, you know, especially when Andy Parashev probably think he should be starting more.
Yeah.
And then that.
It's hard to believe, you know, if you're coming into football, if you're coming to watch Dundalk for the first time, it's hard to believe when you see someone like that come off the bench that he's not starting matches. Now, he has started matches, but I don't know if they like him as an impact player. I don't know. I suppose it depends on the game. He's probably due to start a couple of run in the starting lineup. You know, you'd like to think he can spread those 20-minute increments of talent across a 90-minute game or a 70-minute match. Whether the lads think he can, I don't know. But I mean, like, he can't do much more. You know, like it's similar to Ruby, like you said. You know, he can't do much more than get into the starting lineup.
Yeah,
because you know his talent is unquestioned. It's just whether he can fit into. See, it's one of them things. If you start him and it's not going right.
Well, he did get a few starts, and I just don't think he had as much an impact.
Of course, and you can definitely see why the boys say, "Look, just bide your time, 30 minutes, 35 minutes at the end, whatever it may be, and you have the impact. He never fails to have an impact on the game, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I haven't seen him come off the bench and not change a match, not have an impact, bring a team to a different level. Like, he is Keith Ward of, Keith Ward still does that, but he's Keith Ward when we first signed him. Keith Ward was electric, like crazy talented football. And he's that type of level, and probably Keith Ward won't mind me saying probably better. He will be better. He's unbelievable.
Wardy would mind you saying that.
I think he's probably like, I said this kind of first game that we played him. I don't think I've seen a player like him. Like, that's as close as you're going to get in Fats. McElhenney's probably as close as you're probably going to see. I don't think I've seen anybody. I mean, like, I thought the closest thing I'd seen to Fats was Neil Ferrugia when he played. Like, Kenny's a massive fan of him. I think he's excellent. But I really don't think I've seen someone. You're talking probably like Keith Fahey. I just think he's class, absolutely top class. And I know it's first division, and I know he's young, and there's he's definitely a point to prove if we go up. But I think he's sensational. I really do.
Look, we'll take a 4-0 victory all day long there. It's really important. Like you say, we felt that perhaps this sort of a victory and this sort of performance was in this team. It was important to get it there. It's also important for the likes of our goal difference, because we were winning all these 1-0s. We weren't, really putting anyone to sword. You think of Cove had some big wins in there, Bray had some big wins, and we just weren't doing that. So to kind of, I suppose, close, like, the goal difference now is plus 22. Cove Ramblers are behind us now and plus 18. So that it's nearly giving you an extra point on this run in, as well as obviously having beaten Cove last week. One eye on to Bray next week then as well. It's going down there, but you kind of have that little sense of, once again, if you can go there and get a victory, or at least a result, I suppose. It could be just keeping you ahead, and in particular keeping Bray out of that chasing pack behind you. It's just us and Cove then, maybe. Yeah, there's certain games that you kind of look at any football, really. Like, I do the grassroots at the Bells. There's certain games you'll just take any kind of win. Any kind of, like you would have said here, OG last minute. There's certain games off the backside. We don't be talking about that in July, but I mean, Bray won't be easy. Like, they won tonight, I think. Forgive me, is it 1-0 tonight against Wexford? Double check on that. 1-0 over Wexford, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good win for them as well tonight, and they'll be looking to, especially down, they'll be looking for us to go down and have a bit of a slip. And that's the thing with this team, the Dundalk team. We have to have a slip to beat Bet. We've had it against Finn Harps. Hopefully, it's the only one of the season. And teams have to come up to our level in order to beat us. But if a team is going to do that, Bray have notoriously always been that team for the Dundalk. They seem to have that. It's been Treaty this year, but in Premier Division years gone by, it was always Bray. But I mean, you'd like to think, buoyant off the back of that tonight, I keep saying that I'm at risk of just repeating myself every week. We have another level. We have a gear that we haven't found yet. And, maybe it's because there's too many players, I don't know. But like, if you're in a game like tonight and you're in a game and it's tight, and Parashif or a Ward or, and a Ruby comes off the bench, you'd fancy it. You know what I mean? If they're at it, you'd fancy a win. I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as tonight, although I know we were 3-0 up against them. Was it half time? And then
half time, we were first game.
Should have probably 4. I remember the game with the chance we missed, but I don't think it's going to be like that this year or next week. But you would expect to go down and like a 1-0, any kind of 1-0 would do. But I mean, you want to be kind of off the back at tonight, going down there and saying, right, it's another AstroTurf pitch. It's even newer than what we played on tonight.
Yeah.
They're closer to us in the league, obviously. But again, you have to beat the teams around you. You got to be. It's all well and good going down to the likes of Kerry without being disrespectful, or treat or whatever.
Well, it's about getting that job done there. Like we probably got away with the skin of our teeth last time we were down there. We were down to the 10 men. They threw everything at us at the end, and we kind of stood firm. It's a very different victory tonight.
Yeah, because Bray would still fancy it. Bray, what are we looking at? We're looking at 5 points off Cove, so Bray would still fancy it. Like, if Bray would have beat us.
Oh yeah, that closes this.
I mean, the gap to Treaty is too big, but I mean, you don't want the Treaty. You don't want a 2-horse race either. You want this over, but I mean, you don't want Treaty. You don't want another team chasing you. Yeah. But it's a good match. There's Totally good match for Bray. We probably need
it's
another
probably
game
nothing to lose for Bray
No,
going into it, because like I say,
they've created a gap between themselves and Treaty that they should kind of cement top three.
And it's 3D at home to Cove next week as well.
Yeah. So
Top
it's
4 teams all playing each other.
Anyways, it's ideal, but it's not. Do you know that kind of way? It's one of them weeks where you could have done with maybe Cove or Treaty not playing Cove. But you know, it's the top 4 teams in the league all playing each other. That's what you're here for. You gotta win these games. Yeah, like Jason said, that Harp one, that's the game that should wake them all up. It's not even tonight.
But we were absolutely coasting into games before that, and I think everyone would agree on that as well. We just, like you were talking about, there's another gear in us, but we were never going to find it the way we were coasting through games before that. No. We were getting leads and hoping that 1-0 was going to see us across the line. You know, in particular because the Cove game was next. If you could lose the game, it was lose it to Harps that didn't have a massive impact on what was happening around you. Yeah. But to go and get the 3 points then against Cove kicked on for this victory tonight. And I'm hoping that then now leads to another victory against Bray. And that kind of, like Jason just commented there, you know, it was a bit of a reset for us. Like that's exactly what you'll be looking for. Because if you go out and you beat Cove, you beat Bray, you comprehensively have beaten Kerry tonight. That's a real statement of intent. And the games are starting to run out for teams around us then as well. Like you'd be hoping maybe Treaty could do us a favour next week as well, even holding them to a draw. If we were to get the win, then I suppose that would help us extend our lead up there, and that might become an insurmountable lead. You'd like to think, but you just never know in this league either. We could be sitting here next week and Bray have beaten us and Cove have won, you know, and
that's the way the league's going to go. We were caught on the hop by Treaty, you know, like, and Kerry have definitely played better against us. Bray, you know, I know we were beating Bray well, but I mean, they're a different animal now. I think they went on a run of a crazy amount of wins after that.
They were playing all their back games for not playing at home, and they got settled into that new pitch nicely and kind of racked up the wins. And
they'll be well up for it. And it's the week before the Cup as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
it is. Yeah,
you know, you kind of want to get that last league fixture out of the way before you don't have a break. I mean, but you know, you want to get a good win against, or a good result, a good performance, and then get into the Cup then and have a, you know. The question remains in whether it's the worst thing to do to get out of the Cup to win it, or, you know, but I mean, you'd like to get a bit of a Cup run going as well. If we can kind of, you know, get the wind on our sails and kind of, you'd like to be thinking maybe 3 or 4 games to go, we're almost there and you're still in the Cup, you know, that'd be great. But, you know, you'd bow out of the Cup to get promoted straight away. But you want to go into the Cup off the back of a win, because it's going to be a tough decision. It's going to be a tough match anyway, regardless, playing the likes of Sligo, especially with the child who's now playing for them.
It's going to break your heart, isn't it?
It's tell you, I'd be crying into my jail. I didn't think we'd have to play him this early, but look, you'd hope he plays. Look, we wish him all the best. You hope he's going to play him and get him in. So it's too good to be sitting on the bench up in Dundalk Park. But yeah, get a win into the Cup, and now I think we have Wexford, if I'm not mistaken, in Oriel Park. So it's a decent 3 weeks of football and look, like, First Division is. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing. It's always going to be a tough battle. That's why these 4-0 results are rare. Do you know, like, I mean, for a team like Dundalk to only score 4 goals once is, you know, in the First Division, you would have expected probably a little bit more, and hopefully we will get more in the next couple of weeks. But look, wins are important. I mean, look, we're not going to sit here and start arguing. We're only winning 1-0. But, you know, we should be putting teams to the sword, because we are better than pretty much every other team in the league.
But I'm
not better than Sligo.
Yeah, but haven't shown it at times. I'm better than Sligo. I like it. Just quickly back to tonight's game, and we can start wrapping up then on that. I mean, who stood out for you tonight?
2 for me. I think I mention him every week. I think Ave Dervin gets a mention. If it's not every week, it's every game and a half. He's an absolute workhorse. I mean, I knew when he signed for Dundalk last season in tough conditions, you know, he probably got a bit of a raw deal. We kind of joked that he hadn't won a game when we got him at the interview with Ken and them, but they haven't looked back since, so we'll take credit for that. But I mean, I didn't realise just how dogged he is. He's an absolute, like, I don't know if we'd be the same team in midfield if he wasn't playing. We think of the talent that we have, but he would just nick it at just I would just be on the side of Harry Groom tonight. I think Owen Kenny was excellent.
Yeah, I was going to say Owen. I thought had an exceptionally good game,
I thought he was
and then
class,
that performances have been building as well.
Yeah, and Dean Ebby as well. I mean, Dean
2
Ebby's
assists.
touches. I mean, the link-up play with Dean Ebby is it's obviously something they're working on. Absolutely crazy, but I thought Groom was excellent, and I don't think I've given it to Groom in a long time. Not that I'm giving him the pizza, but day of when I went for last week or the week before. So I'm going to go with Harry Groom.
Yeah, there's some in here for actually to be fair, there's quite a few for Owen Kenny. Dervin gets a
and I wouldn't really be surprised for any of them really. I mean, the work rate is sensational from some of them. It's crazy.
Yeah, look, I'll tell you, that was the last one I just spotted there. Darren Duffy, congratulations. You're a winner of our Tony's 15-inch pizza on ourselves from Tony's Pizzeria. So just contact the lads there and let them know that the pizza is on us. Look, that'll wrap the game for that. But Gally, you just showed it there, and if anyone's been watching across our socials for the past week, this year's charity jersey is now available. The link is on all our socials and stuff like that as well. So it's on, even if you go onto the Player Fit website and just type in the Town End podcast, we should pop up. So it's just over €30 for the jersey. I can't remember. It's
31.72 or something.
Something like that. A good round number. Like that. So look, it's not astronomical money or anything like that. So look, if anyone is in a position that they're able to contribute and buy one of those, you're very welcome, Darren. If you're in a position and you're able to contribute and buy one of the jerseys, we deeply appreciate it, because all profits for that do go to.
And we'll all meet up.
We'll all meet up wearing our jerseys.
Yeah.
Excellent. They all go to Donald Green's charity, Dundalk Village in Uganda. Last year, I think we raised, or a year before, should I say, just over €300, and we're able to, make a massive impact to the educational lives of the people in the village where Donald works as well. So look, it goes to a great cause as well. We're delighted with it. A little throwback from the 2006 season. It didn't end well, but no. as we did say, it was the beginning, I suppose, of Giller starting to put a team together that will eventually get us promoted. So I think that's why we kind of went with that. But I think feedback from people who've seen it online and that from ourselves seem to kind of like this. So perhaps the retro team, maybe the way to go on the jerseys going forward then as well. And a big shout out as well to Vinny and his team in Tony's Pizzeria. They're on one sleeve, and Mark Harlan and his crew up in Black Mountain Studios as well on the other side as well. So thanks to everyone, I suppose, including Donald as well, for their continued help and support on the podcast. That's probably us, Scally, for another night. As I said, look, the most important thing was to come out with the win tonight, to do it comprehensively, that we seem like we haven't been able to do too many times this year. Makes it even better, gives us a good boost going into the week. As I said, you're probably right. Looking at that Bray match now, it's probably a nice little pivotal one to kind of caveat and end these past few games. The Cove match, this one, and maybe that one before the cup match. So if you can get yourself a little momentum going into that cup match, absolutely. You just never know. You just never know as well. And we'll see where we go, and then Wexford at home after that, like you say. So there's a couple of tasty games coming up there for us, and if we can get on the right side of those, I suppose that gives us great momentum going into what could nearly be probably at that stage probably like last 10 games of the season. I would say probably after,
and the doubles on then.
Exactly, we're going to the Aviva again. I like it, Gally.
We missed the Aviva now. We can't get the Aviva. We haven't seen the Aviva in years.
Yeah.
Listen, annual trip is going out the window.
Yeah, God be with the days where people thought the last game of the season was at the Aviva.
Talk about taking a trip for granted.
Yeah, exactly. Look, it goes to show, and the most important thing is that we hopefully can try to get back to it where we believe we belong, but that comes with each result as it comes as well. So we'll take the 4-0 victories tonight. We haven't had too many of those, and until next time, I suppose come on the town.
My black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white scarf, my black and white, yeah, it's black and white, we're just black and white, it's my black and white, it's my black and